Hello and welcome to Grey Matters Extra. Now this is very different content to our usual Grey Matters, somewhat specialist, but it's something I've been wanting to share for some time now. Are you a digital creator, podcaster or YouTuber? And are you due to interview someone for the first time? Or are you hoping to do so? Or perhaps it's something you'd like to consider in the future. Interviewing someone is not as easy as it looks, and if you've never done it, there can be plenty of trip hazards that mean you stumble through the interview instead of sort of metaphorically walking alongside your guest, guiding them through your questions. And that's a great analogy. Unless it's specifically designed to be, your interview should not be combative, or where you obviously have no connection with your interviewee. Most YouTubers want to interview people they know, maybe their local community heroes, or people they admire, or people who are relevant to their channel's topic. So the interview should be as equals, taking a nice gentle walk through your guest's life. Now in this video, using 10 really important tips, I'm going to give you the tools, including preparation and presentation, that you need to create not just an interview, but a really good interview. Now my name's Pete, and during my career before I retired I had been interviewed dozens of times by local journalists and on local and national radio and on regional television. I was also a regular expert on a talk radio phone-in. In order to do all that I had to have media skills training, because being the interviewee is also fraught with danger. Journalists and reporters love to try and trick and trap you into saying something you didn't mean or something controversial. But working with those people also taught me a lot about being an interviewer. And I'm going to share some of that knowledge with you today in order to help you make your video interviews the best they can be. So, tip number 1, do your research. Okay, you're not Graham Norton, you don't have a team of researchers doing the work for you, but you don't generally have to research your guest's entire life story or career. At our level of interviewing, it's probably best to limit your research to the questions you intend to ask. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's use a singer as an example. You have your questions, and it's very advantageous to get a steer on how your guest might answer. Now let's say one of the questions is, what's the most favourite song you've recorded? Then search online for the answer. You won't be the only person that's asked that, and the information might already be there for you. If it is, make a note of it. Then when you ask the question in the interview, your guest, and if your guest gives you a different answer, you can then refer back to your research. Oh, that's interesting, because didn't you say once it was XXX? So what's changed? And there you have another question to ask. You've created a question. At local level, you might be interviewing a local business owner about a new venture. So check online to find out more about it, and that in itself might generate more questions for you to ask. Check and see what other ventures they've also been involved in. And don't forget to use the dreaded AI. You could, for example, ask Copilot to find out about the new business, and you'll be amazed at how quick and complete the information can be. So that's the first thing, do your research, but keep it tight to what your subject is. Number 2, write down your questions. There is nothing worse than watching an interview where the host hasn't done this and wastes a great opportunity because they're not prepared. They ask one question, fail to listen properly to the answer, and because they're wondering what to ask next, they then start to flounder because they have no idea what to ask. If you've worked out your questions, don't rely on memory to recall them all, because in the pressure of the moment you'll forget them. And unless you know the guest really, really well, as in they're a good friend of yours, don't think you can go into the interview with no questions prepared at all. It'll be so obvious to your guest and your viewers that you're not fully prepared. Number 3, the interview should be a conversation, not an interrogation, unless of course you're deliberately creating exactly that. Keeping a good flow of conversation is imperative. Don't just look down, ask a question and wait for the answer, and then kind of stop the interview or break the flow to look down again and find out what your next question is going to be. A bit like this. Who's your favourite singer?
Paul McCartney.
Why?
Well, I've been a fan since I was a kid. I mean, his expertise is off the scale. It sometimes makes me emotional, hearing him play. Are you listening to me?
I see. Yeah, of course. I was just wondering, what kind of music do you prefer to listen to? The interview will appear to be disjointed and amateurish to your viewers, and you can bet that some will be shouting at the screen because you didn't follow up with the question they wanted answered. You must listen to your guest. Something they say will probably spark another question for you. And just like when you have a conversation with one of your mates, and not giving your guest full attention is just plain disrespectful. Tip number 4. Tell your guest what the first question will be. Now, in my opinion, this is vital. Make sure your guest is told this early on, probably about the time they agree to do the interview. It's a matter of courtesy in the industry, and if you were being interviewed, your interviewer should give you that without being asked. In reality, especially with news outlets, you'll probably have to ask them. And if they dodge it or prevaricate, then you know they don't want to give you any info up front, and that means you're probably going to be in for a hard ride. However, the fact you asked will have signalled to the interviewer that this isn't your first rodeo, even if it is, and they might be inclined to treat you a little more kindly. Now, for example, I was called in at the last moment to be interviewed on Radio 4's The World Tonight, which I did remotely from their Cambridge studio. And despite repeatedly asking the host what the first question was going to be, he just evaded it. And I knew something was going on, something was afoot. And it turned out I was going head to head with the leader of a large national union, which I wasn't told until I was actually introduced onto the programme. And that was actually well outside my pay grade. No wonder he kept quiet. I think I won the debate though. But telling your guest in advance gives them time to think about their answer, and it avoids them stammering and stuttering and trying to think of what to say from the very start of your interview. The early questions are a time for creating rapport with your guest, and putting them on the spot isn't going to help. Now, tip number 5. Keep the interview flowing. Now, this tip expands on number 3. So instead of stopping once the previous question has been answered and then asking the next question, give some thought as to how you can sort of dovetail into that new question from what your guest has just been saying. Now, this means you need to be doing 3 things simultaneously: listening to what your guest is saying, remembering what the next question is, and thinking about how to bring it into the conversation. So let's give you an example. 2 unrelated questions. What is the song you loved recording the most? And who is your idol? Now, that's a heck of a gap between them in terms of flow. And in reality, you should try to keep your questions grouped together in terms of their themes. But this is an extreme example, just designed to make you think about what to do. So in a scenario like this, you will need to take full advantage of any opportunity to guide the conversation. Here's an example. So, what's the song you've loved recording the most? That'd be Let It Be. The Beatles classic. Absolutely. So, why that song? It was the first Beatles record I bought, and it always reminds me of my late mother. Yeah, mums. Everyone loves their mums, don't they? Was she one of your idols? Absolutely. Yeah, I worshipped her. So, musically then, who would you consider to be your idols? Now, doing that is not necessarily a skill. It's all about listening to your guest and just picking the moment to get the next question in as seamlessly as possible. Right, tip number 6. Don't make it all about you. Remember, you're not the subject of the interview, your guest is. Ask the question, listen to the answer. It may give you more questions to ask. Don't keep comparing your experiences with your guests like this.
It was really, it's quite scary being on my way to a concert and getting stuck on the tube line.
Yeah, I bet, but
I think I had it worse during the power cuts of the 1970s. My fiancée was driving her dad's car. I was a front seat passenger with her. And the street lights were like pitch black, and even with her car headlights on, she sideswiped a car. For me, I hated driving in those power cuts too. Yeah. Well, on the tube, the darkness was totally disorientating. Well, it's surprising, isn't it, how much we rely on streetlights?
I suppose, yeah.
Now, where were we?
You tell me. There's a big difference to empathising with your guest and making it about you. Watch Graham Norton. His approach to his guests is fantastic. Now, tip number 7. Make your questions short and to the point. Don't ramble on, and don't try to predict your guest's answers or offer opinion as to what they might say. There are several notable broadcasters who are dreadful for doing this. There's a presenter on Talk TV, who I won't name, and there's Piers Morgan, who probably everyone knows anyway. They're two of the worst for this, and I do find myself shouting at the screen for them to just shut up and either ask a question or let the poor guests answer the one they've been asked. No, don't do it. Just shut up. If you've asked the question and your guest will be sitting there just wondering when you're going to take a breath and let them speak. Plus your viewers will be shouting at the screen. Just let him answer. Tip number 8. Avoid questions that invite short or one-word answers. Do you have a favourite song? A question like that will get you nowhere. They'll answer not really, or simply yes I do, or just yes or no. You then have to probe further, and if your guest is naturally untalkative, it'll be like drawing teeth. You need to phrase your questions so they have to give you more than 1 or 2 words. So don't ask, have you got a favourite song? But ask instead, what is your favourite song? Or out of all the videos you've made, which is your favourite? They can't just give a yes or no answer to that, and their reply again might give you more information that you can fire back as further questions. And tip number 9. Now, face-to-face interviews are one thing. Online interviews need some extra thought. If you're using a laptop, desktop or smartphone and an app such as Zoom, then you'll have both your faces on the screen, and you'll probably be using a built-in webcam situated at about eye level. If you're using a smartphone, please do fix it to a tripod to avoid camera movement, which can be very distracting. Now, PCs, laptops and phones are probably the easiest and best things to use, because with the camera at eye level, you'll be able to see your guest, and in effect you'll be making eye contact with them throughout the interview, which is vital, as I'll explain in a moment. If you have an area to use as a studio and you're using a video camera with a separate mic, you will probably have your guest visible on a separate laptop or monitor, and the chances are it won't be in your direct eye line, and to look at your guest stream you'll need to look away. All right? It's just about acceptable for a second or two while your guest is talking, but not when you're speaking to them. A, it's rude, and B, it's unprofessional. By looking at your camera, you'll be psychologically maintaining eye contact, and your guest needs to feel that you're engaged and interested and paying attention to them. It's useful to be able to see your guest's feed because you can pick up on facial cues and body language that might let you know how they feel about your questions and the interview in general, but you don't actually need to watch their feed at all. If you can though, put your monitor as close to your camera eye line as possible, or use an auto cue where you can reflect their image onto the auto cue so you can see that. And the same goes for your question list. No matter what your setup is, pin it as close to your camera as possible so it takes a shift of your eye line to check the notes and you don't have to physically look away. So it's more that than that. They might not be making eye contact at all with you, but that doesn't matter. They'll probably be just watching your feed, okay? But you should be looking at them via your camera, especially if you want to build rapport. And finally, tip number 10. Start recording before the interview starts. Now, this isn't designed to catch your guest making unguarded comments, but it helps to capture the early conversations, and it will help to set the tone for the interview. Similarly, don't stop recording as soon as the interview finishes. Wait until the guest has either left the app, if you're online, or you've both stood up, if it's a face-to-face interview. The reason here is that any chat there might throw more light onto previously asked questions, and it also allows you to review the interview and determine how comfortable your guest was, or maybe relieved that the ordeal was over. Either way, it's great training for you. So there you have it. Okay, a quick recap for you. 1, do your research. 2, write down your questions. 3, it should be a conversation, not an interrogation. 4, ensure your guest knows what the first question will be. 5, try to keep the interview flowing. You need to be ahead of your guest, planning how to introduce the next question whilst paying attention to what they're saying. 6, it's good to talk, but don't make it about you. If you've got a good rapport, a two-way conversation will flow, but just keep in mind while you're interviewing them, your guest is the star of the show. And 7, keep your questions short and to the point and don't ramble on. 8, avoid phrasing your questions in a way that will allow yes or no answers. For online interviews, tip number 9, no matter how tempting it is, don't spend the interview watching your guest on your screen. Always look at your guest through the camera, because it's the equivalent of making eye contact. And number 10, start recording before the interview commences and finish it when it's all over. It is probably a courtesy to let them know when you've started the recording though. So that's it for now. I hope you found it useful. I hope there are enough takeaways here so that your first or your next interview will be a great success. And don't forget, if you do make any bad mistakes, well, assuming it wasn't a live stream, there's always your post-production editing to try and even it all out. Have you tried interviewing? Do let us know. How did it go? Do share your interview stories. Love to hear them. And do please drop them into the comments along with any questions you might have. I'll do my best to answer them. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like and a share. And don't forget, there is a hype opportunity for you there for the first 7 days of videos up via your mobile devices, and that will get it out in front of a lot more people. I hope to do more like this in the future. I hope so, such as tips about choosing and using a teleprompter, for example. So if you like this sort of content, do consider subscribing, and thank you for joining us. And in the meantime, until the next time, bye for now.